These are the minutes of the Nauvoo City Council 1844 dealing with the destruction of the Nauvoo expositor. This exposes the lies of all the Mormon scholars claiming the Nauvoo expositor was destroyed because of polygamy. If you read the minutes of the hearing, clearly less than 1% deal with anything to do with polygamy, and 99.9 deal with insurrection that was about to happen at Nauvoo, the violence and the threats of murder against the Smith family by Wilson Law, Dr. Foster, and Chauncey and Francis Higby. As you recall, Joseph Smith and his family had just discovered a plot to murder and to overthrow the city charter of Nauvoo just 3 months prior to this final city council. Everything that you thought you knew about the destruction of the expositor is totally wrong. The destruction of the Nauvoo expositor was done by Joseph Smith and the city council because they discovered that the printing press owned by the Laws was being used in counterfeiting money. The Laws were planning the murder of Joseph Smith, and Joe Jackson was planning on killing the entire Hiram Smith family after he kidnapped Hiram Smith's oldest daughter. I mean, come on now. Have you ever heard any of these horrible things that the city council was dealing with? No. The Mormon scholars are wanting to distract the entire issue of their planned violence and killing of the Smith family by focusing on, oh my gosh, an alternative marriage lifestyle that was practiced throughout the United States in all sorts of experimental communities. Polygamy was a non-starter. What was important was keeping Nauvoo safe. The planned destruction by these crooks, the Laws, the Fosters, and the Higbees, and Joe Jackson, who bragged that within 3 months' time there would be not one Smith left in Nauvoo.
Synopsis of proceedings in the City Council against the Nauvoo expositor. City Council, Regular Session, June 8, 1844. In connection with other business as stated in last week's paper, the mayor remarked that he believed it generally the case, that when a man goes to law, he has an unjust cause, and wants to go before someone who wants business, and that he had very few cases on his docket, and referring to Councilor Emmons, editor of the Nauvoo Expositor, suggested the propriety of first purging the city council, and, refer negation ring to the character of the paper and proprietors, called up Theodore Turley, a mechanic, who being sworn, said that the Laws, William and Wilson, had brought bogus dies to him to fix. Councilor Hiram Smith inquired what good Foster and his brother and the Higbees and Laws had ever done. While his brother Joseph was under arrest from the Missouri persecution, the Laws and Robert D. Foster would have been ridden on a rail, if he had not stepped forward to prevent it, on account of their oppressing the poor. Mayor said, while he was under arrest by writ from Governor Carlin, William Law sued him for $40 he was owing Law, and it took the last expense money he had to pay it. Councilor Hiram Smith referred to J.H. Jackson's coming to this city, and Mayor said that William Law had offered Jackson $500 to kill him. Councilor Hiram Smith continued Jackson told him he, Jackson, meant to have his daughter, and threatened him if he made any resist negation ants. Jackson related to him a dream, that Joseph and Hiram were opposed to him, but that he would execute his purposes, that Jackson had laid a plan with 4 or 5 persons to kidnap his daughter, and threatened to shoot anyone that should come near after he had got her into the skiff, that Jackson was engaged in trying to make bogus, which was his principal business. Referred to the revelation read to the High Council of the Church, which has caused so much talk, about multiplicity of wives, that said revelation was in answer to a question concerning things which transpired in former days. That when sick, William Law confessed to him that he had been guilty of adultery, and was not fit to live, and had sinned against his own soul, and inquired who was Judge Emmons? When he came here he had scarce 2 shirts to his back, but he had been dandled by the authorities of the city, and was now editor of the Nauvoo Expositor, and his right-hand man was Francis M. Higby, who had confessed to him that he had had the dash. Washington Peck sworn, said soon after Joseph H. Jackson came here, he came to witness to borrow money, which witness loaned him and took some jewelry as security. Soon after a man from across the river came after the jewelry. Jackson had stolen the jewelry from him. At another time wanted to get money of witness. Asked witness if he would do anything dishonorable to get a living. Witness said he would not. Jackson said witness was a damn fool, for he could get a living a deal easier than he was then doing, by making bogus, and some men high in the church are engaged in the business. Witness asked if it was Joseph. No. Said Jackson, I dare not tell it to Joseph. Witness understood him the laws are engaged in it. Jackson said he would be the death of witness, if he ever went to Joseph, or anyone else, to tell what he had said. Afternoon. Ordered by the council that Sylvester Emmons be sus negation pended until his case could be investigated, for slandering the city council. That the recorder notify him of his suspension, and that his case would come up for investigation at the next regular session of the council. The order is in the hands of the marshal. Councilor John Taylor said that Councilor Emmons helped to make the ordinances of the city, and had never lifted his voice against them in the council, and was now trying to destroy the ordinances and the charter. Lorenzo Wasson sworn, said Joseph H. Jackson had told witness that bogus making was going on in the city, but it was too damn small business. Wanted witness to help him to procure money, for the general, Smith, was afraid to go into it, and with $500 he could get an engraving for bills on the Bank of Missouri, and one on the state of New York, and could make money. Said many times witness did not know him. Believed the general had been telling witness something. Goddn him, if he has, I will kill him. Swore he would kill any man that should prove a traitor to him. Jackson said, if he could get a company of men to suit him, he would go into the frontiers and live by highway robbery, had got sick of the world. Mayor suggested that the council pass an ordinance to prevent misrepresentation resentations and libelous publications and conspiracies against the peace of the city, and, referring to the reports that Dr. Foster had set afloat, said he had never made any proposals to Foster to come back to the church. Foster proposed to come back, came to Mayor's house, and wanted a private interview. Had some conversation with Foster in the hall, in presence of several gentlemen, on the 7th inst. Offered to meet him and have an interview in presence of friends, 3 or 4, to be selected by each party, which Foster agreed to, and went to bring his friends for the interview, and the next notice he had of him was the following letter: negation. To General J. JOSEPH SMITH. June 7, 1844. Sir, I have consulted my friends in relation to your proposals of settlement, and they as well as myself, are of opinion that your negation duct, and that of your unworthy, unprincipled clan, is so base, that it would be morally wrong, and detract from the dignity of gentlemen, to hold any conference with you. The repeated insults and abuses I, as well as my friends, have suffered from your unlawful course towards us, demands honorable resentment. We are resolved to make this our motto. Nothing on our part has been done to provoke your anger, but have done all things as become men. You have trampled upon everything we hold dear and sacred. You have set all law at defiance, and pro-negation feigned the name of the Most High to carry out your damnable purposes, and I have nothing more to fear from you than you have already threatened negation, and I, as well as my friends, will stay here and maintain and magnify the law as long as we stay, and we are resolved never to leave until we sell or exchange our property that we have here. The proposals made by your agent, Dimmock Huntington, as well as the threats you sent to intimidate me, I disdain and despise as I do their unhallowed author. The right of my family and my friends demands at my hand a refusal of all your offers. We are united in vir negation 2a and truth, and we set hell at defiance, and all her agents. Adieu. R. D. Foster. Mayer continued, and when Foster left his house, he went to a shoe shop on the hill, and reported that Joseph said to him, if he would come back he would give him Law's place in the church, and a hat full of specie. Lucy N. Woodworth sworn. Said that the conversation as stated by the mayor was correct. Was at the mansion June 7th, when Dr. Foss Negation Terror rode up and inquired if General Smith was at home. Dr. Foster went into the house, witness followed. Dr. Foster was there, the Gen Negation Errol, and others, looking at some specimens of penmanship. Something was paid respecting a conversation at that time between the general and the doctor. General Smith observed to Foster, if he had a conversation, he would want others present. The doctor said he would have a word with him by himself, and went into the hall. Witness went to the door that he might see and hear what was passing. They still continued to talk on the subject of a conversation that they might have afterwards with others present, whom Mr. Smith and Foster might choose. Foster left, and went for those that he said he wanted present, and would return soon with them. He heard all the conversation. Heard nothing about General Smith's making any offers to Foster to settle. Mayer said he wished it distinctly understood that he knew nothing about Dimmick Huntington going to see Foster. Woodworth said he sent Dimmick Huntington to Foster, and Joseph knew nothing about it. Counselor Hiram Smith said Dimmick Huntington came to him on the 7th inst. And said he had had an interview with Dr. Foster, and thought he was about ready to come back, and a word from him or Joseph would bring it about. Mayer said the conduct of such men and such papers are calculation lated to destroy the peace of the city, and it is not safe that such things should exist, on account of the mob spirit which they tend to produce. He had made the statements he had, and called the witnesses to pre-negation pair the counsel to act in the case. Emmons was blackguarded out of Philadelphia, and dubbed with the title of judge, as he had understood from citizens of Philadelphia, was poor, and Mayer helped him to cloth for a coat before he went away last fall, and he, Emmons, labored all winter to get the post office from Mr. Rigdon, as informed. Mayer referred to a writing from Dr. Goforth, showing that the laws presented the communication from the Female Relief Society in the Nauvoo neighbor to Dr. Goforth, as the bone of contention, and said if God ever spake by any man, it will not be 5 years before this city is in ashes and we in our graves, unless we go to Oregon, California or some other place, if the city does not put down everything which tends to mobocracy, and put down murderers, bogus makers, and scoundrels. All the sorrow he ever had in his family in this city has arisen through the influence of William Law. Counselor H. Smith spoke in relation to the laws, Foster's, Higby's, editor of the Signal, and of the importance of suppressing that spirit which has driven us from Missouri, and that he would go in for an effective ordinance. Mayer said, at the time Governor Carlin was pursuing him with his writs, William Law came to his house with a band of Missourians for the purpose of betraying him. Came to his gate, and was prevented by Daniel Carn, who was set to watch. Law came within his gate and called, Mayor, and the mayor reproved Law for coming at that time of night with a company of strangers. Daniel Carn sworn. Said that about 10 o'clock at night a boat came up the river with about a dozen men. William Law came to the gate with them. Witness, on guard, stopped them. Law called Joseph to the door, and wanted an interview. Joseph said, Brother Law, you know better than to come here at this hour of the night, and Law retired. Next morning Law wrote a letter to apologize, which witness heard read, which was written apparently to screen himself from the censure of a conspiracy, and the letter betrayed a conspiracy on the face of it. Adjourned at 6:30 p.m. till Monday, 10th, 10 o'clock a.m. Adjourned session, June 10th, 10 o'clock a.m. Alderman Harris presiding. Mayor referred to Drive. Foster, and again read his letter of the 7th instant, as before quoted. Cyrus Hills, a stranger, sworn. Said one day last week, believed it Wednesday, a gentleman whom witness did not know, came into the sitting room of the Nauvoo mansion, and requested the honorable mayor to step aside, he wanted to speak with him. Mayor stepped through the door into the entry by the foot of the stairs, and the general, mayor, asked him what he wished. Foster, as witness learned since was his name, said he wanted some conversation on some business witness did not understand at the time. The general refused to go any farther, and said he would have no conversation in private, and what should be said should be in public, and told Foster, if he would choose 3 or 4 men, he would meet him with the same number of men, among whom was his brother Hiram, and they would have a cool and calm investigation of the subject, and by his making a proper satisfaction, things should be honorably adjusted. Witness judged, from the man negation in which Foster expressed himself, that he agreed to the mayor's proposals, and would meet him the same day in the presence of friends. Heard no proposals made by mayor to Foster for settlement. Heard nothing about any offer of dollars, or money, or any other offer except those mentioned before. Nothing said about William Law. Was within hearing of the parties at the time conversation was going on. Orrin P. Rockwell sworn. Some day last week saw Dr. Foster ride up to the Nauvoo mansion and go in. Witness went in and found the mayor and Dr. Foster in conversation. General Smith was naming the men he would have present, among whom were Hiram Smith, William Marks, Lucien Woodworth, and Peter Hawes, and Dr. Foster had leave to call an equal number of his friends, as witness understood, for the purpose of having an interview on some matters in contention. The doctor's brother was proposed. General said he had no object negation tie-in, wanted him present. Dr. Foster started, saying he would be back shortly. Before Dr. Foster left, the men whom General Smith had named to be present at the conversation were sent for. Cross-examined. Witness went into the house as mayor and Dr. Foss negation tear were coming out of the barroom into the hall. Nothing said by the mayor to Dr. Foster about his coming back. Made no offer to Foster about a settlement. Mayor said the first thing that occurred to his mind, when he stepped into the ball with Foster, was that B wanted to assassinate him. He saw something shining below his vest. Mayor put his finger on it and said, "What is that?" Foster replied, "It's my pistol," and Med negation immediately took out the pistol, and showed it openly, and wanted the mayor to go with him.